Welcome, Patriots, to the Raw Feed. My name is Brett Siegel, filling in for the great Gary Franchi, who is currently on the ground at the NATO summit in The Hague, Netherlands, embedded with the White House press corps inside Operation Orange Shield's security perimeter. Gary will be sending us an exclusive report from the epicenter of this global showdown, and our first topic tonight features his explosive coverage from inside the secured zone. If you're watching, repost this show to your followers on X right now and text this stream to your friends. Let's bypass big tech's algorithm together. We're streaming live to millions worldwide on YouTube, Rumble, and X, bringing you the news as it happens from the front lines. It's week 22 of Donald Trump's triumphant return to the White House, and tonight we're bringing you coverage that the mainstream media simply won't touch. What makes the Raw Feed different? We don't just report the news, we interact with you, our viewers, getting your live reactions as history unfolds. So fire up those super chats and your Rumble rants right now, even before we dive into today's topics. We'll be featuring them on the screen between segments for the world to see. Speaking of history, on this day in 1967, Israel launched Operation Focus, decimating Egypt's Air Force in just 3 hours during the Six-Day War. I mean, they really should have called it the 3-hour war. Outnumbered, surrounded by enemies, Israel didn't wait to be destroyed. They struck first with precision and moral clarity. Does that sound familiar? Because 58 years later, nearly to the day, Trump and Israel just delivered another masterclass in peace through strength. Tonight's show is packed with bombshells. Gary's exclusive NATO coverage as Iran's missiles rain down, the unholy alliance between woke leftists and Islamic radicals exposed, Trump's surgical strike that has the mullahs crying into their shish kebabs, and the Strait of Hormuz threat that would hurt China more than America. Now, if you believe in supporting real journalism that tells the truth, hit those donation links in the description. Every single contribution helps us fight the information war. You can donate privately at the links below or show your support publicly by grabbing exclusive merch at shop.nextnewsnetwork.com. Wear your favorite news source with pride. But here's something even better. Become a YouTube channel member. Each membership level comes with unique perks. Special acknowledgments in our chat room, exclusive uploads from the Next News team, behind-the-scenes content, access to our members-only Discord server where Patriots connect 24/7. The establishment does not want you to be informed. Prove them wrong by joining our growing army of truth seekers. Gary's reporting from The Hague confirms we're witnessing prophecy unfold. The Qatar embassy evacuation proves this is real. The rockets falling on the U.S. installations confirm that we are at war's threshold. While Trump prepares to address NATO leaders tomorrow, Iran's retaliation is already underway. While Biden turned America into a Sharia-friendly sanctuary city and leftist protesters march with "Queers for Palestine" signs, apparently missing the irony that Tehran would execute them on sight, right? Trump just reminded the world that what American strength looks like. No apologies, no endless wars, just surgical precision that makes our enemies think twice. Remember, we live on multiple platforms, so follow us everywhere: YouTube, Rumble, and X. The censors can't stop the signal that we're broadcasting on all frequencies. You know, your super chats and your Rumble rants are coming in hot, and we will be showcasing them throughout the show. This is your chance to be a part of history, not just witness it. Tonight, with Gary's boots on the ground reporting from NATO, we will expose the death cult alliance between radical Islam and the radical left. But I repeat myself. We'll show you why Trump's strike wasn't escalation, it was 40 years overdue. We're going to reveal how Israel's playbook from 1967 just got updated for 2025. The revolution will not be televised, but it will be live streamed. You're watching the Raw Feed, where we don't just report the news, we dissect it with you in real time. Share this stream, join the movement, support independent media. Let's get to it, Patriots. The world is watching, and so are we. All right, let's go to some chats. All right. Hi, Brett. Hi from, all right, I got a lot of highs here. It's excellent to see you all here. We've got the army, we've got everybody here. Let's see, we just got involved in a hot war. You just don't know it yet. LARP busters. You know, I think it remains to be seen. I mean, obviously, it's a little bit hot, but we don't know if it's going to turn into something explicit. I mean, we got Soleimani without escalating. So, I mean, I think we should sit and wait. Let the president cook. I love the new Beach Boys. So that just came up and went. I love the new Beach Boys song. I ran. We got a bunch of jokers in here. This is great. Yes. 82nd Airborne all the way. Thank you for your service, my friend. Depends on how leaders play things out, LARP. Jeremy Olson. I think you're absolutely right. This is definitely, we're at the crux of an important, we got a fork in the road right now, and how things go in the next couple of weeks is going to determine how the world reacts for years to come. This is what happened over the weekend was a total game changer. I would have loved to report it to you, but I literally just picked my jaw up off the floor. I mean, it was an unmitigated success. All right, let's roll into our trivia question. In 1953, the CIA orchestrated Operation Ajax to overthrow Iran's democratically elected Prime Minister Mohammad Mossadegh. Which oil company's nationalization triggered this covert operation? A. Shell Oil Company. B. Anglo-Iranian Oil Company, BP. C. Standard Oil. Or D. Texaco. Let us know in the chat. Let us know what you think. We're going to get to this at the end. We're going to answer all your questions. Now, America just crossed the Rubicon. While you slept, U.S. forces launched Operation Midnight Hammer, precision strikes that turn Iran's nuclear dreams into smoking craters. Qatar's embassy personnel are fleeing. Rockets are raining on our bases. NATO's emergency summit just became a war council. Our chief White House correspondent, Gary Franchi, is locked inside the security perimeter, witnessing history unfold right now, right as we speak. This isn't another Middle East skirmish. It's the moment that changes everything. Press Secretary Karoline Leavitt just dropped bombshells that will make your jaw hit the floor. Secretary General Rutt confirmed that what we suspected, the old world order just died. What Gary is about to show you from the inside Operation Orange Shield will shake you to the core, so keep watching. But here's the hard truth. Every 6 years, your dollar loses half of its buying power. That means $100,000 savings account today could feel like $50,000 by the year 2031. And if you see it every time you fill up your tank, buy groceries, pay your bills, buy toys for your kids, you know that prices are up. Your dollar is down. But there's a simple way to protect the value of your savings with something real, something proven, gold, an asset that holds its value over time. That's why I trust Noble Gold Investments. They make it simple to protect your savings with physical gold or silver. No high-pressure sales, no call centers, just honest guidance, one-on-one support, and transparent pricing. And right now, when you open a qualified account, Noble Gold will send you a free 10-ounce silver American flag bar as a thank you. Head to nextnewsgold.com today to learn more. That's nextnewsgold.com. Don't just protect your wealth, preserve its power. All right, let's check in with Gary at NATO.
I'm Gary Franchi, Chief White House Correspondent for the Next News Network, reporting to you tonight from inside the security zone of Operation Orange Shield at the very hotel secured by the White House for its official media and operations team during the NATO summit in The Hague. Now, this is our first official report from the ground, so we've got a lot of ground to cover. But just moments ago, breaking reports confirm that the United States has ordered the immediate evacuation of its embassy personnel in Qatar as Iran's retaliatory strike is actively underway. Yes, retaliation. The strike is happening right now, and the footage has emerged showing rockets raining down on U.S. installations in the region. This is not a simulation. This is not training. This is war at the threshold. And tomorrow, President Donald J. Trump is scheduled to arrive here in The Hague, where the fate of global alliances is about to be redefined. Roll footage.
Allahu Akbar. Madam, madam.
Now that's it. That's the retaliation everyone warned about. Now, it's not a question of if the world changes, it's how fast. And tonight, as Donald Trump prepares to walk into a summit surrounded by NATO generals, foreign ministers, and defense hawks, America's enemies are firing real missiles. We are living in a moment history will never forget. And while the corporate press clutches their pearls and whines about procedure, the White House press secretary isn't backing down. Karoline Leavitt delivered a clear and uncompromising message about Trump's strike on Iranian nuclear facilities. Roll it.
The president is pleased, the country is pleased, and frankly, Brian, the whole world should be pleased with the courageous action that President Trump and our United States military took on Saturday night. I want to thank, and the president wants to thank, the brave pilots who flew nearly 40 hours and more than 7,000 miles from the middle of America to the Middle East to conduct this highly successful and complex precision strikes on Iran's nuclear facilities. This is an operation that presidents of the past have dreamed about, but no president had the guts to actually do it. But President Trump did, to take away this imminent threat, not just to the state of Israel, but to the United States and the rest of the world. So the country is a safer place today because of the president's bold action, and he has prevented a nuclear conflict. He has prevented a rogue radical regime from obtaining a nuclear bomb and threatening our people.
Now, that wasn't a press secretary. That was a declaration of dominance. 7,000 miles, 40 hours of flight, precision strikes that crippled Iran's nuclear ambition. And Karoline just didn't defend the strike. She called it historic, and she's right. No other president had the courage. Trump did. And according to her, the world is safer for it. But of course, the political class can't help themselves. Thomas Massie cried foul. CNN pushed fake headlines. So Karoline came back with the receipts. Watch.
We did make bipartisan calls. Thomas Massie and the Democrats, he should be a Democrat because he's more aligned with them than with the Republican Party. We're given notice. The White House made calls to congressional leadership. They were bipartisan calls. In fact, Hakeem Jeffries couldn't be reached. We tried him before the strike, and he didn't pick up the phone, but he was briefed after, as well as Chuck Schumer was briefed prior to the strike. So this notion that CNN ran with at the White House did not give a heads up to Democrats is just completely false. In fact, both Senator Schumer's office and CNN had to retract that story last night because it was a blatant lie. And we showed them the timestamps from those phone calls. But I want to add something to Thomas Massie's false points. The White House was not obligated to call anyone because the president was acting within his legal authority under Article 2 of the Constitution as commander-in-chief of the president of the United States. We gave these calls as a courtesy, and the Democrats are lying about this because they can't talk about the truth of the success of that operation and the success of our United States military and the success of this president and this administration in doing something that past administrations, Democrats too, have only dreamed about.
They say Trump didn't warn anyone? Well, that's false. Schumer was briefed. Jeffries was called. CNN had to retract their own lie. This wasn't a cowboy operation. It was a constitutional strike executed with precision, legality, and, of course, courtesy. But that is not the story they want you to hear. And that's exactly why we're here. While the West watches Trump, NATO leaders are speaking quietly but urgently about what's coming. Here is Secretary General Mark Rutte explaining why this summit matters. Watch.
I'm here at NATO headquarters in Brussels, preparing for the summit in The Hague. You will see here one of our coffee corners. There's another one over there. I typically start the day here with a good cup of coffee. But hey, let's get down to business. The summit. Why is this so important? What we see is Russia rapidly reconstituting itself. We see a massive Chinese build-up of its military. So we have to make sure that we can defend our 1 billion people in NATO. And that is what this summit is all about. First, much more defense spending, so that we are able, indeed, to defend ourselves. But of course, money is one thing. We also need the gear, the stuff, and of course the soldiers. But when it comes to the defense industrial production, we have to do much more than we do now. This will be the second big subject of the summit. And of course, Ukraine. We have to make sure that Ukraine can defend itself now, but also is able, in case of a long-term ceasefire / a peace deal, to make sure that that ceasefire, that peace deal is enduring, is lasting, and that Putin will never ever try again to attack Ukraine in case a deal is created, is done. And then, of course, our partners. We will have the Indo-Pacific 4, that's Australia, New Zealand, the Republic of Korea, Japan, over in The Hague. We have Ukraine, of course, in The Hague, and our long-standing partner, the European Union. And we'll have many discussions with them and with the 32. Again, it will be a splash. It will be NATO really standing there at the world stage, being able to defend its 1 billion people, having taken all the necessary decisions. So looking forward to see you there and keep you informed.
Did you hear that? Russia is rebuilding. China is arming. And NATO wants to ramp up defense spending, manufacturing, and boots on the ground. This isn't about peacekeeping anymore. It's about confrontation preparedness. It's about conflict momentum. And yes, it's about Ukraine. And in one of the most consequential statements yet, NATO has officially declared that Ukraine is on an irreversible path to full NATO membership. Roll it.
Free flow, Dmitry Shkurko, National News Agency of Ukraine. Last days we have intensified attacks of Russia to the civilian objects in Ukraine. Today, tonight, at least six people only in Kiev died and around 20 were wounded. So my question is NATO considered that like some kind of challenge just straight before the start of NATO summit? And could we expect, if not reaction, but some kind of assessment of this situation from a leader's side? And the second question, if I may, tomorrow you will have a trilateral meeting with EU and Ukraine. Can we expect you raise the question how EU can replace American assistance, which is not granted anymore? And could it be a reality for EU to replace that kind of assistance? Thank you.
Well, first, on your first question, the attacks on innocent civilians, on cities, on communities in Ukraine, without any military goal, I totally find abhorrent. We hold Russia fully responsible for this. It is against any rule, international rule. And anyway, this whole attack, starting in 2014 and the full-scale attack starting end of February 2022, is unprovoked, is totally by everybody in NATO seen as something we collectively have to fight back on, making sure that Ukraine has what it needs with our support to take that fight concretely from step to step and make sure that they can defend Ukrainian territory. This is the reason why I think also last year in Washington, NATO allies agreed that for Ukraine there is an irreversible path of Ukraine to enter NATO. And that is still true today, and it will still be true on Thursday after this summit.
So what does it mean? It means that the red line has been officially crossed. Putin's greatest fear is now NATO's clearest signal, full integration of Ukraine. Endless Western support, and a direct slap across the face of every Russian strategic doctrine. That is not speculation. That is escalation. Now, you still think Trump's strikes were reckless? Here's NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte, not a MAGA man, but a seasoned Dutch diplomat, saying it plainly. The strike was, in fact, lawful. Watch.
And that is why NATO has said Iran should not, and this is a consistent position of NATO, Iran should not have its hands on a nuclear weapon. So, and I would not agree that this is against international law what the US did.
That's right. NATO's top leader just confirmed it. Iran had it coming. Trump acted within bounds, and NATO is standing behind the United States. So, this summit is no longer just about policy. It's about prophecy. Global forces are aligning. Old powers are clashing. And while the cameras spin their sanitized stories, we are here on the ground to show you what is really happening. This isn't just Trump versus the world. This is America standing alone, with truth, with strength, and with divine timing. So stay tuned, because we are only getting started. I'm Gary Franchi for the Next News Network, signing off for now.
Now, this is not just another NATO summit. It's the moment that America stops apologizing and starts leading. Gary's exclusive reporting from The Hague proves what we've been saying, that Trump's strike wasn't aggression, it was justice delayed by 4 decades of Iranian terror. You know, while leftist protesters weep at the mullahs who'd execute them for basically existing, and Biden imported this chaos through our borders, Trump and our NATO allies just drew a line in the sand, and it is working. We have breaking news that there has just been a ceasefire between Iran and Israel. We're going to keep an eye on this. We don't know exactly what's going to happen. The dust is still settling. The holes in the mountains the dust is still settling. Everyone's watching. Russia, China, Iran has decided to have a ceasefire, which I don't know. I mean, for all the World War III, alarmists, it seems like they just got put in their place. But here's the truth that they don't want you to hear. America is back. We did it right. We're the good guys, and we're not asking for permission to defend civilization. The summit marks the end of weakness and a return to righteous strength. Now, here's my question. Should America wait? Should America have waited for Iran to develop nuclear weapons before acting, or was Trump's preemptive strike the right call? Drop your answer in the comments below, and don't forget to check out our exclusive merch at shop.nextnewsnetwork.com. shop.nextnewsnetwork.com. Wear your patriotism with pride. All right, let's go to the chat. All right, God is good all the time. That is absolutely right. I truly believe that. Not if NATO and Hillary has anything to say about it. Unfortunately, there's some validity to that. You would think our allies would treat us a little bit better, but unfortunately, it took a guy like Trump to encourage them to do their part. So, I mean, this is just the way things go, Brian, Brett, and Todd, we love you guys, and thank you for all you have done. Yeppers, Pothead, Kenny, thank you so much, and thank you to you for being a part of this N3 army. Obama, Biden, and Hillary sold us out to Iran, says the #1 MAGA general. I think you're absolutely right. I mean, it's insane. God forbid the liberals just support the president once and for all. I mean, they have to literally, if he came out in support of oxygen, they'd stick a plastic bag over their heads. They'll literally contradict anything he says. President Trump was just announced a peace plan to cease war between Israel and Iran. It was agreed upon. Pamela McFadden, yes, we are looking into that. This is absolute right on the money. Breaking news. This happened totally just now, just a few minutes ago while we were preparing for the show, but we are bringing all the up-to-date stuff. We are as up-to-date as we possibly can be. Felicia, I totally agree with President Trump. Well, I totally agree with President Trump too. I think he did the right thing, and I think this ceasefire is a testament to how quickly things can be stopped. We don't need these quagmires in the Middle East. We don't need them. It's not everyone's, we're going to have another Iraq war. No, that was a different president. That wasn't the Trump president. Okay? Trump president puts the kibosh on it right away. He's the art of the deal. He said within 2 weeks, a couple hours later, he makes this. He does the strike, okay, and then literally the next day, a couple days later, we have a ceasefire. If that's not a win, I don't know what is. Well, we're going to escalate to. They said that we would be in World War III by now. They can all eat crow. All right, let's take a look. All right, the media is in full meltdown mode, photoshopping Israeli flags onto cruise missiles and screeching war crimes, faster than a Starbucks barista can misspell your name. Ex-posts are drowning in tears, wailing about escalation like it's some sort of canceled Netflix show. Meanwhile, protests are erupting across America with blue-haired hippies chanting, "No war!" in New York and LA and Chicago and Portland and all the leftist hippie towns with all the blue places. It's rich coming from the same crowd who spent 40 years fist pumping Iran's genocide America and Israel playlist. You know, it's hypocrisy so thick you could spread it on toast. You know, this wasn't just a bar brawl. It was a U.S.-Israeli operation so precise that you could carve a turkey with it. The mission: to neuter Iran's terror machine without a single civilian casualty, unlike Biden's border invasion, where unvetted radicals are demanding Sharia law like it's the new iPhone drop. Now, the Made in America agenda is eye-opening. The Made in America agenda eyeing important tariffs. The race for secure domestic supply just hit overdrive. Copper is charging back towards last year's record, hovering around $4.85 a pound as global stockpiles scrape 15-year lows. Enter Giant Mining Corp, ticker BFGFF in the US and BFG in Canada. Their 9,800-acre Majuba Hill project sits in mining-friendly Nevada, right beside highway, rail, power, gas, and fiber. Recent drilling delivered a 170-foot copper zone averaging 0.4%, capped by a 10-foot streak running 4.4% copper. The kind of punch majors pay billions for. Engineering from RESPEC is already fast-tracking the first NI 43101 resource. So Majuba could leap from a drill rig to development while rivals get tangled in the new red tape. In a super cycle where projects that move fast win, Giant Mining checks every box. Discover more at giantminingcorp.com, on the OTC at BFGFF in the US and BFG in Canada. Now, let's watch Trump reveal his unprecedented military strike against Iran terror hubs.
A short time ago, the U.S. military carried out massive precision strikes on the 3 key nuclear facilities in the Iranian regime: Fordow, Natanz, and Esfahan. Everybody heard those names for years as they built this horribly destructive enterprise. Our objective was the destruction of Iran's nuclear enrichment capacity and a stop to the nuclear threat posed by the world's #1 state sponsor of terror. Tonight, I can report to the world that the strikes were a spectacular military success. Iran's key nuclear enrichment facilities have been completely and totally obliterated. Iran, the bully of the Middle East, must now make peace. If they do not, future attacks will be far greater and a lot easier.
At 2:37 a.m. local time, while AOC was tweeting about impeachments, the adults in the room dropped a surgical smackdown on Iran's war toys. Esfahan's IRGC command center, not a craft brewery, but the hub for Iran's drone missile Uber to Hezbollah and the Houthi lunatics. Now it's a crater deeper than MSNBC's ratings. Shiraz Weapons Factory, no Etsy shop. This was Iran's rocket lab, churning out long-range death traps for Tel Aviv and Riyadh. Now it's a junkyard with secondary blasts proving that they had more bombs than a Baywatch reboot. Natanz nuclear bunker, Iran's nuke fetish headquarters, spinning uranium like a DJ at a doomsday rave. The strike turned into a scrap heap, delaying their wipe Israel dreams by a decade. How'd we do it? Not with Biden's pretty please diplomacy. Picture this. B-2 stealth bombers from Diego Garcia hauling 30,000-pound bunker busters so mean they make the mullahs sweat through their robes. F-35 fighter escorts ghosting through Iran's airspace like phantoms, mocking their 1970s radars. Electronic warfare jammers that turned Iran's air defenses into a bad Spotify playlist. Their commanders were blinder than a woke professor at a critical thinking seminar. This wasn't preemptive. This wasn't preemptive, okay? Let's take a look at the next clip.
The bombers launched from the continental United States. As part of the plan to maintain tactical surprise, part of the package proceeded to the west and into the Pacific as a decoy, a deception effort known only to an extremely small number of planners and key leaders here in Washington and in Tampa. The main strike package, comprised of 7 B-2 Spirit bombers, each with 2 crew members, proceeded quietly to the east with minimal communications. Throughout the 18-hour flight into the target area, the aircraft completed multiple in-flight refuelings. Once over land, the B-2s linked up with escort and support aircraft in a complex, tightly timed maneuver requiring exact synchronization across multiple platforms in a narrow piece of airspace, all done with minimal communications. This type of integration is exactly what our joint force does better than anyone else in the world.
This is so America, and this is so Israel. And when this is so America and this is so Israel get together, I mean, this is the kind of amazing things that can happen. You know, this is how America won the Revolutionary War, and it's how Israel won and kept its statehood over these years. And we're going to go dive deeper into that later. But this is truly a righteous FAFO moment. In other words, the good guys came out on top. America didn't wait for Iran to mail a nuke to the United States saying, "To America with love, Iran." You know, but, you know, they were calling it a first strike, like saying that dodging a flamethrower is escalating. They've been telling us this for 40 years. We just listened like 2 days ago. Iran has been swinging at us since 1979. Drones on U.S. bases, cyber attacks on our grids, death to America chants on an infinite loop. Take a look.
He didn't want to hear from them.
Well, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs is, I mean, your point that you made before, Katie, it speaks to this, which is that he's not explaining what the issues are for America. What are the issues for America? Why is it a foundational issue for Trump that Iran doesn't have a nuclear weapon? Why is this something that the U.S. should be involved in? Why are we allied with Israel?
He says because they chant death to America.
They chant death to America. I went to Iran in 2014. I was sitting at a rally. These young guys were chanting death to America. I had a minder. I said, "What are they saying?" They're saying death to America. They finished the chant, and 2 young men came over and said, "Are you American?" I said, "Yes." "We want to welcome you to our country. We love American culture and love American movies." They wanted to talk about all these things. Iran is the most Western nation in the whole Middle East. We have much more in common with them than a lot of countries that we do have alliances with.
Well, the huge X factor, too, is what Ben Rhodes, Obama's security guy, described as what we could have is a catastrophe.
Listen, Iran has been chanting things like death is sweeter than honey. We love death more than you love life. You know, that's a part of the Islamic death cult. You know, the highest thing the most noble thing you could do is to die for Islam. You know, and it sounds like a lot like the My Body, My Choice death cult, where they're destroying children, obliterating children. You know, we're going to talk about the unholy alliance later. You know, but I have 5 words for you. If you love death so much, you know, your wish is my command, I guess. You know, so stop pretending like any of you Islamists or leftists want peace. You know, Islamists want to meet Allah, and leftists have mental disorders and unaliving ideations where they want to unalive themselves. You know, abortions, castrations, state-assisted unaliving. I guess it's not so unfathomable that they have created this unholy alliance. You know, and this was Trump saying enough is enough. And then he landed a kill shot. A strike so surgical that it has been likened to shooting four bullets from 250 miles away to a target the size of a sphincter. We don't want to kill. We don't want to die. Now here's Vance promoting this the truest of the true pro-life spirit. Take a look.
Is the United States now at war with Iran?
No, Kristen, we're not at war with Iran. We're at war with Iran's nuclear program. And let me just say, Kristen, that we're incredibly grateful and proud of the American Air Force pilots who did an incredible job last night. The operation was really extraordinary. These guys flew from Missouri. They didn't land a single time. They dropped 30,000-pound bombs on a target the size of a washing machine, and then got back home safely without ever landing in the Middle East or ever stopping other than to briefly refuel. And of course, they did that in the air. So it's really an incredible operation, a testament to the power of American military. And I think what shows what can happen when you have that great American military in the hands of capable presidential leadership. What we did is we destroyed the Iranian nuclear program. I think we set that program back substantially, and we did it without endangering the lives of the American pilots. That's an incredible thing, and I think we all should be proud. Whatever our politics, we should be proud of what these guys accomplished. A very, very high impact mission under a lot of pressure.
Remember, this is so surgical that there were 0 civilian deaths. That's not luck. That's by design. We're not trying to kill innocent people. Unlike Iran's proxies, Hezbollah, Hamas, the Houthis, who use kids as shield and fire from daycare roofs, Trump's team plays clean. Now here's Marco Rubio laying down truth bombs about the reality of the Iranian death cult.
Listen, why do we have bases in Saudi Arabia and Kuwait and Qatar and UAE? All of those bases are there to help protect those countries from Iran. Why did Hezbollah exist? Because of Iran. What does Hamas exist? Because of Iran. How do the Houthis exist? Because of Iran. Who built the IEDs that maimed and killed American soldiers in Iraq? Iran. They're behind every problem in this region. They are the sole source of instability in the entire Middle East, and the world's been paying a price for this for 40-something years.
Love me some Marco Rubio. We miss him dearly here in Florida, but we're glad that he's participating as Secretary of State. Now, Trump did the world a favor. You know, you play stupid games, you win stupid prizes. Meanwhile, Biden was inviting millions of unvetted migrants, many waving Sharia law like it's a pride flag, of course. We're going to get more into that later, turning our streets into Tehran's audition tape. You know, Iran hides behind civilians. Biden was importing the chaos. And these no war protesters, spare me. They're silent when Iran vows to genocide Israel, but they scream when we try to stop it. The strike was adulting, done right. Now let's talk about the Strait of Hormuz. It's a 21-mile wide oil funnel between Iran and Oman that moves 1 in 5 barrels of global oil every single day. Take a look at this clip. All right. This is the Strait of Hormuz, and you can see this is how many tankers are moving. You see all those little dots on there. They've got oil in them, and they're moving oil from one place to another, rocking and rolling, doing the thing that they do. And we're going to get into that in a minute, but they do this. Iran is threatening to basically cut off this hub of global commerce. Because they're sour. Listen, if it chooses to go that route, listen, it wouldn't be just a hiccup. It's going to be an economic asthma attack. Let's break it down. 25% of the world's oil trade flows through this glorified puddle. Okay? 95% of Iran's oil exports, it's basically Hormuz or bust. They're talking about cutting off their nose to spite their face. You know, 50% of China's oil imports right through the Hormuz. The U.S., just 5% of our oil comes through there. 5%. You know, there's a lot of alarmists who are out there saying, this is going to devastate American economy. Gas prices are going to go up. Our economy is going to tank. Trump is the beginning of the end. Listen, America is not going to get strangled if this thing shuts down. You know who is? China is going to be the one grasping for air. Iran, who they're basically putting themselves on an economic ventilator. You know, this is what they mean by we love death more than you love life. They're willing to annihilate their own country, okay? This is the whole point. They've been screaming it for years. It's a death cult. And anyone dumb enough to rely on Middle Eastern oil while lecturing the U.S. about sustainability, that's a completely different subject. That's where the left comes in. We're going to dive into that later. This cutting off your nose to spite your face, except in Iran's case, they're going for both the nostrils and a couple of internal organs while they're at it. Will it hurt us at the pump sure, like for a minute. Gas prices might pop a little bit. But we're America. We could produce our own oil. We can dig our own gas. We've got fracking. We've got the Permian Basin. We've got Texas. Even under Biden's climate clown car administration, the U.S. still remains the largely energy independent. And that means no, your lights are not going out. No, your economy isn't crashing. And no, we're not about to become Venezuela just because Iran had a tantrum in the Persian Gulf. If anything, closing Hormuz is a gift. It shows the world exactly how fragile their China-centric supply chains are, and why betting against U.S. energy dominance is a bad idea. We don't need their oil; they need ours. All right, let's go to the chat. All right. It's supposedly over for now. Camper 14 Tina. I really hope so. I doubt it. We've got a ceasefire. I don't know if this is going to be the straw that broke the camel's back as far as peace, but look, we're hoping for the best right now. It took literally a couple days for things to calm down. The dust is still settling. We're still raking in some news feeds, but I'm going to take this as a good sign right now that there's a ceasefire. The ceasefire is still pretty unsure at this time. We got an awesome super chat from Craig, Nebraska, reporting for duty. Hello, new dude. Welcome. Hide your girlfriend. Someone in the chat steals them. We've got a really fun community here. Adam says, there will be a devastating response so horrific that other countries need to join. Listen, I truly don't believe. Listen, I believe, listen, after years of death to America, death to Israel, now we get a ceasefire. First of all, I'm not entirely sure that it's actually happening, but if this is true, it means their pants are down right now. It's time to move in and start to do some real negotiating. IGWTS, historically, they come back. Yes, I know. They're like roaches. They always come back. And of course, there is the Islamic convention of taqiyya, where you can lie when you're sort of under the thumb of a more oppressive regime, and then once things get moving, you can come out and show your real colors. It's right there in the Quran and the Hadith. It's right there. Just go ahead and read it. Let's see. God is good all the time. Already happened. Iran's working with Trump. God is all. Sorry. All right. Already happened. All right. Yeah, there we go. Okay. Let's go back. Now, while Biden hands out border passes like candy at a gender reveal party, Trump reminds the world what real leadership looks like. The war hawks want endless invasions. The peaceniks want UN hugs and TikTok diplomacy. But Trump, he delivers death to terrorists and peace through strength. And he still has perfect hair. From Soleimani's vaporization to the Abraham Accords, he's the only one who knows how to handle the world's worst without turning America into a war zone or a doormat. The mullahs blinked, the left cried, and the world, it remembered why Trump is the only man fit to lead. Now, the world is learning what peace through strength really means, and it starts with education. While leftists indoctrinate kids with critical race theory and gender confusion, smart parents are arming their children with the truth. That's why the Tuttle twins created Liberty First content that teaches real economics, personal responsibility, and American values. Their monthly magazine uses comics, activities, and real-world lessons to combat the woke agenda poisoning our children and our schools. Just like Trump is teaching tyrants about the consequences, you can teach your kids about freedom. Right now, subscribe for just $56 per year at TuttleTwins.com/next. Don't let the left steal your child's mind. Give them the intellectual ammunition to fight back, because raising patriots starts at home. Now, let's talk about the one guy who can stare down a Middle East dumpster fire and walk away with his hair still intact. Donald J. Trump. Take a look.
With all of that being said, this cannot continue. There will be either peace or there will be tragedy for Iran far greater than we have witnessed over the last 8 days. Remember, there are many targets left. Tonight's was the most difficult of them all, by far, and perhaps the most lethal. But if peace does not come quickly, we will go after those other targets with precision, speed, and skill. Most of them can be taken out in a matter of minutes. There's no military in the world that could have done what we did tonight, not even close. There has never been a military that could do what took place just a little while ago.
If peace does not come quickly, we will go after those other targets with precision, speed, and skill. You know, while Biden was turning America into a Sharia-themed Burning Man for unvetted migrants, Trump grabbed the reins, told the world to choke on their whining, and showed Iran what happens when you mess with the big dog. Now, X-posts are buzzing with no war protests, flooding U.S. cities, New York, Chicago, L.A., with hippies chanting peace like they didn't spend 40 years cheering Iran's death to America, death to Israel's genocidal karaoke. Check out these proto-riots. These signs don't even make sense. Look at it.
Let's bring it back here to the United States, specifically to New York City, because that is one of the places where we have seen these demonstrations coast to coast now pop up in just the last hour or so. More expected tonight. NBC's Maya Eaglin, you can see, is there tracking the so-called No War in Iran protest in Times Square. Maya, what's it like?
Hey, Holly. Right now, there's a lot of energy here. Tons of folks out in Times Square. Take a look. These people I've been speaking to say they are against the escalation. They say that happened overnight in Iran. Stop the war on Iran is really what we are reading on so many of these signs. There are speakers out here saying that they disagree with the Trump administration's decision to drop those bombs last night. A lot of the folks out here in New York were also at the No Kings protest last week. The city is preparing for all this. We have a tweet from Governor Kathy Hochul. She says, "My top priority is the safety of all New Yorkers."
People meet the people's needs. Don't feed the war machine, says the same people who want to obliterate Israel off the map, who are begging the United States government to send munitions to Ukraine. You know, people need safety from a nuclear holocaust. That's what they need. It's kind of hard to worry about buying blue hair dye when you've been vaporized. People's needs? What does that even mean to them? The gall of these people. It's like a vegan chortling over a slaughterhouse after eating a 20-pound roast. You know, they're just completely losing it. They've completely lost any semblance of critical thinking. The war hawks, the neocons who are itching to invade Tehran, you know, and draft your TikTok-obsessed cousin, you know, the peaceniks, woke weirdos clutching no war signs, sobbing about destabilization while ignoring Iran's hobby for terror. You know, both are dumber than a gender studies thesis, and neither understands peace through strength. Check out J.D. Vance articulating the MAGA foreign policy.
What we've said to the Iranians is we do not want war with Iran. We actually want peace. But we want peace in the context of them not having a nuclear weapons program. And that's exactly what the president accomplished last night. I really think there are two big questions for the Iranians here. Are they going to attack American troops, or are they going to continue with their nuclear weapons program? And if they leave American troops out of it and they decide to give up their nuclear weapons program once and for all, then I think the president has been very clear. We can have have a good relationship with the Iranians, we can have a peaceful situation in that region of the world. We have to step back a little bit, Kristen, and remind ourselves that we negotiated aggressively with the Iranians to try to find a peaceful settlement to this conflict. It was only when the president decided that the Iranians were not negotiating in good faith that he took this action. Yeah. He didn't take it lightly, but I actually think it provides an opportunity to reset this relationship, reset these negotiations, and get us in a place where Iran can decide not to be a threat to its neighbors, not to be a threat to the United States. And if they're willing to do that, the United States is all ears.
You know, we're still watching this breaking news with the ceasefire. It looks like everything is working. We're going to be broadcasting to you every single day this week. We're going to be keeping a close eye on this. But listen, one thing you have to understand is that Trump is not a hawk drooling for oil or one of these doves begging for cuddles from the third world. He's a realist, a guy with a moral compass that doesn't wobble and a spine forged in MAGA steel. This is a man who smashed ISIS without a $1 trillion nation-building sequel. Just dead bad guys. No TED Talks. He droned Soleimani so cleanly that Iran didn't know what hit them. World War III? No, listen, this is just the mullahs like complaining. There's not going to be a World War III. He brokered the Abraham Accords, making Arab states play nice with Israel while experts choked on their kale milkshakes. He kept Putin, Xi, and Kim in check with little more than a few tweets. Deface the nation never ceases to disgust me. Check this out.
Are you saying there that the United States did not see intelligence that the Supreme Leader had ordered weaponization?
That's irrelevant. I see that question being asked in the media. That's an irrelevant question.
No,
they have
that is the key point in U.S. intelligence assessments. You know that.
No, it's not.
Yes, it was.
No, it's
that
not.
The political decision had not
I know
been
that
made.
Better than you know that, and I know that that's not the case.
But I'm asking you whether the order was given.
And the people who say that, it doesn't matter if the order was given. They have everything they need to build nuclear weapons. Why would you bury things in a mountain, 300 feet under the ground?
Right.
Why would you bury why do they have 60% enriched uranium? You don't need 60% enriched uranium. The only countries in the world that have uranium at 60% are countries that have nuclear weapons. Because they can quickly make it 90. They have all the elements. They have. Why do they have a space program? Is Iran going to go to the moon? No, they're trying to build an ICBM.
No, but that's a question. That's a question of intent, and you know, in the intelligence assessment that it was that Iran wanted to be a threshold state and use this leverage. I'm talking about the public March assessment, and that's why I was asking you if you know something more from March.
But that's also an inaccurate representation of it. That's an accurate representation of it. That's not how intelligence is read. That's not how intelligence is used. Here's what the whole world knows. Now, forget about intelligence. What the IAEA knows. They are enriching uranium well beyond anything you need for a civil nuclear program.
You know, sometimes I wonder why our most battle-tested politicians waste their time on legacy media stations like this, deface the nation, subjecting themselves to these demagogic gotcha questions. I mean, she's not there to talk to Marco Rubio. She's there to bloviate. You know, they're high on the smell of their own flatulence. You know, from the looks of that clip, slavery must have returned because Rubio just owned that Democratic shill. Love me some Marco Rubio. Florida, baby, okay? He's a Florida boy. We love Marco Rubio here. And the strike wasn't preemptive. It was a finally moment. You know, Iran's been swinging at us since 1979. Drone attacks on the U.S. bases in Iraq, threatening our troops like target practice. Cyber attacks crashing our grids. IRGC goons chanting death to America while arming Houthi pirates to choke global trade. And Biden's response? Turning America into a free-for-all for millions of unvetted Muslims, many demanding Sharia law while Iran was laughing while they spun uranium. You know, Biden's invasion let chaos waltz across our border. Folks who'd rather impose a caliphate than salute the flag that supposedly saved them, right? But if they're refugees, right? Then we saved them. From what? Why are they waving the flag from whence they came? And now these no-war protesters are out there clutching their pearls for Iran mullahs after decades of Tehran's genocide Israel vows. Please, spare me. You know, they're silent when Iran arms Hamas, but they scream when we stop a nuke? Trump didn't wait for a nuke to land. But don't call this a first strike. Iran has been begging for this with every drone, every proxy, every wipe Israel off the face of the earth rant from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. You know what that means? No Jews, no Israel. And this was Trump saying, we're done. You know, X posts call it unprovoked. Spare me. To me, I call it good parenting. Iran got bold because of Biden's weakness. Trump's strike cleaned up Biden's mess, both abroad and at home. This is leadership, not a UC Berkeley drum circle. Trump didn't just stop Iran's nuke fetish. He reminded America that we don't bow to terrorists, border jumpers, or these no-war clowns cheering Tehran's genocidal dreams. Strength is survival. Now, I want you to check out our exclusive merch at shop.nextnewsnetwork.com. Check it out. Wear it with pride. We got this. Let's go to the chats. All right. This needs to be mainstreamed. Cloud Heart. I agree. I absolutely agree. Cartels should take notice of what Americans can do too. We've had enough of their attacks on our country too. Camper 14 Tina. I couldn't agree with you more. I couldn't agree with you more. We've got an epic group out here tonight. Slaves of the deep state. They only say what they're told to say. Michael Jones. You know, you're absolutely right. But, you know, some of them are a little too bloviating to like to be taken seriously. It's kind of like they say the quiet part out loud. All right. Great live show. Condi Rogers, thank you so much for that. Appreciate you. Whenever I'm feeling down, I just remind myself that trillions of dollars of propaganda didn't work on me. Overeducated SP, and I agree with you implicitly. And it's amazing because like when I was educated in the public school system in Florida, and even back in the 90s, even back in the 90s, you could see the murmurings of this kind of propaganda. I'm so glad that I was very rebellious in high school because I didn't buy into any of it. Jeremy Olson, all their words are scripted. You're right, they are. I mean, they do know when to deploy the heckler's veto. You know, like if you can scream loud enough, it makes them right. If you can scream loud enough and silence the other person, it makes them right. Jeremy Olson, damn, nose won't stop bleeding. I'm sorry to hear that, man. All right. While Biden tried to turn America into a Sharia-themed flea market, Trump teams up with Israel to remind the world how peace actually works, through dominance, not patchouli and drum circles. Protesters weep for Tehran, but where were they when Hamas turned playgrounds into launch pads? This strike wasn't aggression. It was a moral obligation. From the Six-Day War to the Abraham Accords, Israel's history proves that it doesn't start fights. It ends them with precision and, yes, mercy. Iran just cashed in 40 years of terror debt. And the Arab world, secretly fist-bumping. Secretly supporting Trump and Israel. Peace through strength isn't just a slogan. It's the language that tyrants understand. Now, just as Israel transformed from besieged to dominant through strength and innovation, your body can transform too, with the right fuel. That's where collagen comes in. By age 40, your collagen level drops significantly, leading to wrinkles, sagging skin, and creaking joints. But here's the solution. Ageless multi-collagen. While Israel builds iron domes, you can build iron-strong hair, skin, and nails. This formula packs 5 types of collagen from our 4 premium sources, all hydrolyzed for maximum absorption. No clumping, no smell, just results. Like Israel's precision strikes, clean, effective, game-changing. Visit healthwithgary.com today for 51% off, because looking younger shouldn't require military-grade tactics, just military-grade discipline in taking care of yourself. Now, let's talk the Middle East, where the only thing dumber than a terrorist is a Biden voter with a no war sign. Ex-posts are screaming about protests in D.C., Boston, and San Diego, with peaceniks demanding peace, like they didn't spend 40 years winking at Iran's genocide America and Israel rants. Rich, super rich, coming from the folks who'd rather hug a mullah than admit that Iran has been the region's bully since disco was cool. This strike wasn't about starting a war. It was about Israel surviving, the region waking up, and proving peace comes from a steel fist, not a yoga mat. Meanwhile, Biden was turning America into a Sharia-friendly flea market for unvetted migrants who think the Constitution is just a suggestion. A living document. Israel's role? Don't call it preemptive. For 75 years, Israel has been the world's punching bag. Hezbollah rockets raining from Lebanese playgrounds because hiding behind kids is, peak resistance. Hamas blowing up buses and babies, stabbing people randomly, calling it freedom while the United Nations sends them glitter. Iran's ayatollahs vowing to erase Israel while bankrolling every psycho with a rocket launcher. Recipients of the BDS movement, boycott, divest, and sanction. Terrifying movement. When Israel teamed up with the U.S. to torch Iran's nuclear toys, Esfahan, the IRGC hub, Shiraz rocket factory, and Natanz nuke lab, they weren't playing Rambo. They were fighting to not be genocided. Let's crack open a little history book. Revisionist knuckleheads. Because Israel's been schooling enemies, don't mess with us, since before your mom was arguing over which bell-bottoms to wear. Rewind to the Six-Day War of 1967, when Israel faced a slaughterhouse that makes Iran's current hissy fit look like a toddler's tantrum. Check it out.
Few events in modern history were as dramatic as the Six-Day War of June 1967, the war between Israel and 4 Arab nations, Egypt, Syria, Jordan, and Iraq. Among other things, it changed the nature of the Middle East, and the Israeli-Palestinian conflict transferred control of the West Bank from Jordan to Israel and unleashed Islamic extremism. The origins of the war were complex. They began with the rise of Pan-Arabism, which sought to unite the countries, Syria, Iraq, and Jordan, created by the Europeans after World War I, and into a single Arab state. The question was, who would lead that state? In their efforts to claim that role, Arab rulers tried to outdo one another in attacking Israel. Foremost among them was Gamal Abdel Nasser, the charismatic leader of the most powerful Arab country, Egypt. To establish his leadership on May 16, 1967, Nasser evicted the UN peacekeepers who served as a buffer between Israel and Egypt in the Sinai Desert and the Gaza Strip, which was then under Egyptian control. Nasser marched his army into the Sinai and threatened to drive the Jews into the sea. He blockaded the Straits of Tehran at the entrance to the Red Sea, choking off Israel's vital southern port of Eilat. He made a military alliance with Syria and Iraq. He placed the Jordanian army under Egyptian command. By the first week of June 1967, Israel was surrounded.
Look at that, a tiny little state, a tiny little country the size of New Jersey, surrounded on all sides. Egypt, Syria, Jordan, and Iraq, backed by Soviet tanks and jets, had Israel surrounded, outmanned, and outgunned. Now we're talking 465,000 Arab troops, 2,880 tanks, and 900 aircraft versus Israel's 264,000 troops, 800 tanks, and 300 planes. It was like a literal David and Goliath situation. That's if Goliath had 3 buddies his size and a nuclear fetish. But Israel didn't wait for Nasser's tanks to roll in. Take a look.
After much arguing and agonizing, Israel's leaders chose to attack. At 7:45 on the morning of June 5th, Israel launched one of the largest airstrikes in military history. The Egyptians were caught completely by surprise. In a matter of hours, Israeli planes wiped out 3/4 of Egypt's air force, most of it on the ground. This gave Israel command of the skies, a major tactical advantage. Then Israeli ground forces rushed into the Sinai. Their goal was to neutralize the Egyptian threat, and by doing so, hopefully dissuade other Arab states from joining the fray. Israel repeatedly urged Jordan's King Hussein to stay out of it. It didn't work. In a matter of hours, Israel was fighting a three-front war. Jordanian forces fired thousands of artillery shells into West Jerusalem and the Tel Aviv area and attacked Israeli positions along the eastern border. Syria, too, rained thousands of shells down onto Israeli towns and villages in the Galilee. Israel responded as if the nation's life depended on it. It did.
This reminds me a little bit of the American Revolution, with the British going, well, why didn't they shoot first, and then we fire, and then they fire, and we all walk around in redcoats, where we all can see each other. Listen, on June 5th, 1967, Israel launched a preemptive strike so savage that it is still the gold standard for military audacity. Well, I mean, that was until a couple days ago. Operation Focus. 183 Israeli jets took off at dawn, flying to low duck radar, and in 3 hours flat, they turned Egypt's Air Force into a scrapyard. 400 planes obliterated before the pilots could even finish their morning coffee. Jordan and Syria's airfields got the same treatment. By lunch, Israel owned the skies, and the Arab coalition was grounded like a kid caught sneaking cookies. Does that sound familiar? I mean, the next 5 days was a pure cleanup. They should have called it the 3-hour war, not the 6-day war, because it was won within a couple hours. Israel's ground forces steamrolled the Sinai, the Golan Heights, the West Bank, East Jerusalem, wrapping it up by June 10th. Outnumbered 2-1, out-tanked by 3-1, they handed their enemies a defeat so brutal that it's still a therapy topic in Damascus, okay? And here's the kicker. Israel didn't just obliterate Goliath. And this is the difference between the good guys and the bad guys. They showed mercies their enemies could only dream of. They captured 15,000 prisoners of war, Egyptians, Syrians, Jordanians, and sent thousands back home, fed them, kept them alive. Within a couple months. Compare that to Iran, Hamas, Hezbollah, who parade prisoners of war like trophies, starve them, do unthinkable things to their bodies, as Hamas did with the hostages post-October 23. And Iran proxies will do that with anyone they snag. Israel's 1967 playbook crippled the enemy in hours, mop up, then send POWs home, shows a moral spine that the Tehran's goons just simply cannot fathom. Now, fast forward to 2025, to this Iran strike. Same Israeli DNA. Not a first punch, but a response to Iran's 40-year vow to genocide Israel, backed by nukes, proxies, and endless cries, death to Israel. Israel doesn't start fights. They finish them like they've been doing since 1967. And let's not mince words here. This was not a first strike. This was retaliation. This was we're done. We're done with you. After decades of Iran's nuclear threats to Israel and America. And they did it with more precision than a vegan picking quinoa at Whole Foods. This was absolutely incredible. Remember, the precision from over 200 miles away to shoot a bullet in the hole that was like the size of a sphincter. Rubber baby bunker busters. And guess who was quietly cheering? The Arab states, the UAE, Saudi Arabia, Jordan. They're not coming to Iran's rescue. They're sending Israel fist bumps right now. At the very least, they realize that no one F's with the greatest civilization since the dawn of humanity, right? At the very least, they understand that. Why? Because Iran is not just Israel's problem. It's a regional and global plague, and everybody knows it. Trump flipped the script with the Abraham Accords, a diplomatic middle finger to the peace is impossible nerds. The UAE, Bahrain, Sudan, Morocco normalized ties with Israel because even they're sick of Iran's death to everyone vibes. Saudi Arabia started flirting, whispering about trade and drones because Iran is scarier than a bad falafel, which means not at all. Shared threats become a quiet bromance. Intel swaps, missile drills, and a vibe that says, we're not pals, but we hate the same guy. This strike wasn't preemptive. It was Iran cashing in a 40-year check of terror. It told Iran, your nuclear party is over. It told Israel, America has got your six. And it told the Arabs, choose your alliances wisely from now on. Meanwhile, Biden was letting unvetted radicals demand Sharia law on our streets, turning America into Iran's farm team. And these no-war protesters, they're out here crying for Iran's mullahs after Tehran spent decades vowing to genocide Israel and America. Why are they allowed to do this on American soil? Does anyone here think that any of the third world hellholes they're protesting for would allow this in any permutation? No, only in America. Odd, right? Trump's strength didn't just save the Middle East. It reminded us that we don't bow to terrorists, border jumpers, or sanctimonious patchouli Birkenstock-wearing hippies. And we're not cheering for war. We're cheering for justice. Deterrence that stops rockets from hitting kindergartners. A Middle East where Israel doesn't beg to exist, and America that doesn't apologize for winning. So, what's the score? Trump just took Iran's terror empire to the woodshed, leaving their mullahs crying into their shish kebabs and hugging their goats. Iran's terror machine, completely smashed. Their IRGC hubs, rocket factories, their nuke labs are now abstract art entitled, Don't Test Us. Israel's deterrence, back with a vengeance. They didn't start this. Remember that. Always remember that. Israel didn't start this. They ended Iran's proxy tantrum, proving that they can hit Tehran and still make it to Shabbat dinner. The Middle East, admit it, it's less of a train wreck. Even though the ceasefire, we don't know what's happening with the ceasefire, but just admit it. Just the fact that it's on the table a couple days after the strike, that is a testament to Trump's foreign policy. You know, Arab states are now cozying up to Israel, not out of love, for now. You know, it's because they know who's got the bigger bat. I truly believe that they will eventually learn to love Israel. America, we're leading not by groveling. Trump cleaned up decades of foreign policy disasters, and the next on deck is to address the radical Muslim invasion on our own home soil. This was not a preemptive strike. Iran has been screaming death to America, death to Israel since 1979 on every billboard. Trump didn't wait for a nuke to land, but he did throw the first punch, and he knew it would be a knockout, and it was a knockout. So far, everything's looking good to me. But while Biden was letting millions of unvetted migrants demand Sharia law, protesters are crying for peace after cheering Iran's genocidal rhetoric for decades. Trump is screaming America doesn't kneel to terrorists, border jumpers, or sanctimonious leftist weirdos. This wasn't chaos. It was a reckoning. It wasn't a war. It was justice. And it was just Trump. It wasn't just Trump. It was a blazing sign to every bad actor. Step out and you'll be picking your teeth up off the floor of the geopolitical landscape. Now, go sob about it on Next, please. Now, definitely you want to check out our merch at shop.nextnewsnetwork.com. All right, let's go to the chat. All right. How many times do you tell a child before you take off the belt? Well, I'm a peaceful parent, but everyone has their limits. You know, to be honest, I think America has a long fuse. I think we have a very, very long fuse. When it comes to certain things, we have compassionate charity. We have good hearts. We don't want innocent people to die. And I think, but when push comes to shove, you have to take off the belt and, give your enemies a spanking. I love my president, overeducated SP. I love my president too. He's not just my president, he's your president. And for all you leftist Americans out there, citizens, he's your president. Read it and weep, folks. Just read it and weep. He's your president too. Not my president. Hashtag not my president. No, he's your president too. The number one MAGA general. I told you not to test me. Yeah. Listen, if you test our President Trump, you're going to have a bad time. You're going to have a bad time. All right. Now hold on to your hats, folks, because America's streets are a clown convention and the freaks are out in force. Ex-posts are screaming about no war protests, clogging up D.C., Chicago, L.A., New York, and every college town with a vape shop and pronoun seminar. Who is running this circus? A grotesque, unholy alliance of leftists and Islamists waving peace signs while cheering Iran's 40-year genocide, America and Israel death screeds. Picture queers for Palestine marching hand in hand with folks who would chuck them off a rooftop in Tehran faster than you could say the word ally. It's like watching a vegan beg a butcher for a hug at a pig roast. It's ridiculous. This isn't a protest movement. It's a masterclass in narcissism, psychopathy, projection, gaslighting, brain-dead critical thinking, and hypocrisy so rank it would gag a skunk. All right. Let's unpack some of this lunacy. These no wars clowns, they're not new. They're the left's riot squad, rebranded for 2025. Remember the 2020 Summer of Love when BLM and Antifa turned Minneapolis and Portland into a post-apocalyptic LARP zones? Take a look at this clip. There we go. If you're not watching, we've got rioters on the street. This is LA right here. It seems like every couple of years, LA turns into a war zone. I feel bad for the cops out there. Starting fires, assaulting cops. I mean, it's amazing how the left and the Islamists have the same playbook. One are religious zealots, and the other ones are staunch atheists. But they have the same playbook, and they have the same exact goal. It's going to be an interesting. We're going to have to take a look at. We're going to definitely take a look at this unholy union. Yep. All right. Soros cash flowed like cheap wine, fueling Molotov cocktails, looting Nikes, and brain-dead mantras like defund the police. Yet the idiots decrying capitalism love their shoes and their iPhones. Of course, like the Nike store and the Apple store, the first places that they charge into and they rob, right? I mean, if you hate capitalism so much, then I don't know. Instead of using an iPhone, why don't you use like 2 cans and a really long string, right? The moment one of these panties get hurt, they whine that the police aren't doing something about it. Crazy. This will make our diehard N3 fans really mad. Our beloved producer, my baby brother, Todd, got maced because of these degenerate LARPers. It was a police mace, but Todd and Elijah Schaefer were bringing this to our attention long ago, and watching my brother get maced during a riot was difficult. Check out my baby brother, Todd, get maced.
Our streets! Our streets! Our streets! Our streets! Our streets!
Hey guys, they're backing us up. We're going back. Here we go. Bike by bike, car by car. Here we go. Oh, they're macing. Oh. They're macing us. Here we go.
Philando Castile! Philando Castile! Philando Castile! Philando Castile!
Can you give me an update right now, live on Twitter. What's going on?
The people are What's going
I'll get you. Take off your hood. Here, hold up. Take off your hood. Yeah, go. Yeah, there. Fuck.
There he is. Producer Todd.
What? I know. My bad. Hold up. Get my producer. He's never been maced before. Give him a second.
There he is, Uncle Todd, right there.
We will. We're going to keep recording. We're not going to stop. Oh, here we go.
There he is.
Yo, hey.
I got to hand it to Uncle Todd, our trusty producer here. Even when he was being maced, he still held out his umbrella so that other people would be protected by the mace. And let's get one thing straight. This was police mace. And good. They maced the crowd full of Antifa, BLM rioters. I mean, I'm sad to see my brother get maced. He was there reporting the news, doing exactly what he always does, which is devote his life and blood and sweat and tears to bring you the best. But let's face it. If all these rioters weren't whining and crying and screaming and hosting these die-ins, did you see that BLM guy laying on the floor? That's a die-in, right? Just laying on the floor like he's dead, right? Totally insane. I'm sure that Elijah Schaffer and my brother Todd weren't the targets of that mace. They were just trying to bring you the news. You know, in 2011's Occupy Wall Street, where trust fund brats with $7 smoothies were whining about capitalism while demanding free Wi-Fi, you know, the same playbook applies today. Antifa busses in their goons with black masks and a black bloc with a fetish for like torching a Starbucks, not because they love Iran, but because they're psychopathic nihilists who want to burn their own house down for TikTok clout. It's weird. It's just weird. These aren't activists. These are arsonists with personality disorders, projecting their inner chaos onto American streets. And the slogans, no war, hands off Iran. You know, that's pure word salad. It's a mantra, you know, dumber than a sociology syllabus. X-posts show that these drones chanting, it's like a cult audition, zero critical thinking, just parroting platitudes that wouldn't even survive a basic Google search. Iran's rap sheet, drone attacks on U.S. bases, cyber attacks crashing our grids, and 40 years of death to America, death to Israel rants while arming Hamas and Hezbollah to slaughter children. But these protesters try to gaslight us, pretending Iran is a victim while ignoring its vows for genocide. It's not ignorance. It's willful blindness, fueled by narcissism so bloated, their spray-painted signs, they rewrite reality. They don't hate war. That's obvious. They hate America's goodness. They're nihilists. They don't loathe the U.S. because it's evil. They loathe the U.S. because it's free, strong, and doesn't grovel when they have a temper tantrum. Now, here's an oldie goodie of leftist politicians providing these degenerates with much more than a dog whistle. These are literal marching orders. Check this out.
I just don't even know why there aren't uprisings all over the country. Maybe there will be.
People need to start taking to the streets. This is a dictator.
You know, there needs to be unrest in the streets for as long as there's unrest in our lives.
Enemies of the state.
Show me where it says that protests are supposed to be polite and peaceful.
Do something about your dad's immigration practices, you feckless.
When they go low, we kick them.
How do you resist the temptation to run up and wring her neck?
The biggest terror threat in this country
is white men, most of them radicalized up to the right.
I thought he should have punched him in the face. I said, even if you lost, he insulted your wife.
Yes.
He came down the escalator and called Mexicans rapists and murderers. He said, well, what do you think I should have done? I said, I think you should have punched him in the face and then gotten out of the race. You would have been a hero.
I'd like to punch him in the face. I said if we were in high school, I'd take him behind the gym and beat the hell out of him.
Punch some people in the face!
When was the last time an actor assassinated a president?
They're still going to have to go out and put a bullet in Donald Trump, and that's a fact.
Look as his character is stabbed to death.
Where is John Wilkes Booth when you need him?
This way. That's it right there. Pull it up.
I have thought an awful lot about blowing up the White House.
This is from the people who brought you peace. This is from the people who brought you love wins. Love is love. You know, it's the same with Israel, they dare to exist despite Iran's apocalyptic wet dreams. This leftist Islamic romance is peak hypocrisy. Queers for Palestine? Are you high? Now, this is the most insane thing about what we've been witnessing in the last several months, in the last several years, actually. Queers for Palestine. The same people who would be beat to death like a piñata in any of these Islamic countries. Hamas would turn them into piñatas. And Iran's morality police would flog them just for existing. Weird combination of allies, right? Tehran hangs gays. They stone women. They fund every terrorist from Beirut to Yemen. And the left is out here holding hands with Islamists because nothing screams woke like cozying up to a regime that would outlaw their entire ideology. It's weird, right? It's a little weird. But it's not solidarity. It's this weird psychopathic projection, pretending that the mullahs share their oppressed vibe. I mean, they sort of do in this backward sense. They're weirdly on opposite sides of the spectrum, but they've made this unholy alliance. Ex-posts are flooded with selfies waving Mexican flags and Palestinian flags and Iranian flags next to the rainbow flags, as if Tehran is booking drag queen story hour for Ramadan. They're not allies on their face, right? On its face, they're sort of useful idiots, gaslighting themselves into thinking that this alliance makes any sense. Newsflash, it's a marriage of narcissists and fanatics, united only by one thing: their hatred of the West. Now, let's not skip the critical thinking void here. These clowns couldn't logic their way out of a paper bag. They scream no war while Iran's proxies hold hostages and fire rockets from schoolyards. But when Trump strikes, calibrated, moral, no civilian blood, he guts Iran's nuclear hubs. They lose their minds. It's crazy. They don't lose their minds about the hostages, about emaciated hostages, women and children being slaughtered in their own homes. Why? Because they don't think. They emote. They're toddlers with megaphones. And the hypocrisy shines when you compare Israel's mercy in 1967, sending thousands of prisoners of war home after a crippling the enemy in hours. If Israel were such an evil country, they could have taken tens of thousands of prisoners of war and done what to them? If it was Hamas, you know what they would have done. But Israel, they marched them right home. These protesters are silent on Tehran's cruelty, but they wail when America and Israel stop a nuclear holocaust. They're not for peace. They're for murder. Murder of the West. Meanwhile, Biden and Obama had turned America into a Sharia-friendly free-for-all, letting millions of unvetted migrants cross the border. Now they're demanding Sharia law. These are the same folks marching with the left, chanting no war, while Iran's proxies bomb kindergartners. Let that sink in. And Trump's strike? A precision response to 40 years of Iran's genocidal threats. These no war weirdos, they're not mad about war. They're mad that America and Israel won't simply roll over and die like they want to die themselves. Take a look at this clip. Okay. See this clip? These are yeah, all these people need food, right? Except they're destroying Israeli goods right here. This is your boycott, divest, and sanction. This is what boycott, divest, and sanction means. It means taking perfectly good food and destroying it because it was made in Israel. Insane. And we're supposed to send aid to these people? We're supposed to help out? Your hard-earned taxpayer money? We're supposed to send it over there so they can do that? You know, instead of boycotting, divesting, and sanctioning Israel, we should be promoting, supporting, and investing in Israel. Here's why. Take a look.
In 1917, Jewish physicist Albert Einstein laid the theoretical foundation for the laser. Light amplification by stimulated emissions of radiation. In 1960, another Jewish physicist, Ted Maimon, fired the world's first working laser. But it wasn't until 1976 when the world's first commercial laser company opened a research facility in Tel Aviv, Israel, that something amazing happened. A technological revolution. Telecommunications, manufacturing and distribution, robotics, aeronautics, microcomputing, alternative energy sources, cutting-edge medicine, understanding our universe and our place in it, with the technology to keep our children safe, propelling us into the future. Promote, support, invest. Israel.
All right. I gotta hand it to myself. That was a piece of content that me and your trusty producer, Uncle Todd, created a few years back in a response to the boycott, divest, and sanction movement. The voiceover on that clip was yours truly. We wrote the music. We did the whole thing from scratch, all the research and everything. And it's all true. Israel has been a bastion of peace and prosperity, while all the countries around them siphon and suckle off of them like it's their mother's teat. Okay? We are, this is the boycott, divestment, and sanction, the boycott, sanction, and divestment movement is, it's suicidal. Listen, the enemies of America and Israel, you know, their narcissism demands applause, and their psychopathy craves chaos, and their gaslighting rewrites Iran as the victim. Israel and America, we want peace. We want peace. Do you know how easy it would be for America to like just obliterate like half the world? Maybe the entire world. It would be so easy. Those are not the aspirations. We have what we have because we worked for it. And if you really think about it, a lot of most of the technology that funds all of these operations was created and developed in America and in Israel. Chew on that for a minute. If we wanted global domination, global colonization, we could have it. that's not what the end game is here. The end game is peace. But they hate America, not because it's bad, but because it's good. That's nihilism. We're free, we're strong, we're unapologetic, just like Trump's leadership. This isn't about peace for them, it's about power. The left and their Islamic pals do not want harmony. They'll let the entire world burn as long as they can be kings and queens of the ashes. You know, Trump's strike showed them that it is strength, not slogans, not mantras, not patchouli, not Birkenstocks, not Molotov cocktails that keeps the world spinning. Now they can project, they can gaslight, they can riot all they want. But America is not buying this narcissistic, brain-dead, hypocritical garbage anymore. Now let's peel back the curtain on the twisted common ground between leftists and the radical Islamists, a bond that is so perverse that it makes a horror flick look like a Pixar short. Take a look at these two clips.
Turning to other news here in the Bay Area, abortion rights activists across the nation rallied today. Their goal to defend and protect abortion access. Right here in the Bay Area, more than 2,000 people took over Joe Chalura Courthouse Square. ABC Action News reporter J.J. Burton was there and has more.
A ban's off our bodies. And that's the message people across the country are sending to lawmakers and the Supreme Court.
On one hand, I do feel encouraged to see so many folks in the community coming together. But on the other hand, I'm just pissed that we have to come out in the first place.
Bernice Lauren is one of the people who organized this rally in Tampa Saturday. More than 2,000 people of all different genders, race, sexual orientation, and political views came out.
I absolutely did not think that we would be here at this day and age.
Ida Mackett is one of the organizers. She also has 4 children, 3 of them girls.
Knowing that, we have freedoms, knowing that we have freedom of speech, knowing that we have freedom of religion, to think that I would not have the freedom to practice my own bodily autonomy and my rights over my body is absolutely insane.
There you go. Leftists fighting to slaughter and genocide babies. Now watch their Muslim counterparts.
To a Fox News alert, at least 85 people were hurt in the latest Iranian ballistic missile attack, this in Tel Aviv and beyond, including a direct hit on a hospital in southern Israel. Young children are among the wounded in the attack.
And earlier, our foreign correspondent, Greg Palcott, capturing footage of Israeli air defenses trying to stop the incoming fire.
They're not taking a break. We've been listening to the anti-missile defenses. There's a couple right there. It's a wake-up call for this country, for the city, that this war between Iran and Israel is still on.
And Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is promising to, quote, exact the full price from the tyrants in Tehran.
They all look like genocidal maniacs to me. They all look like they're trying to genocide babies, genocide children. If the children happen to be lucky enough to be born, they're either castrated or completely brainwashed to unalive themselves. It's not just their hatred of the West. It's a full-blown death cult obsession, a shared fetish for self-destruction that spits on the concept of life itself. Both the left and radical Islamists, Iran, Hamas, Hezbollah, no wars, they're high on their own nihilism, projecting their psychopathy, gaslighting us into calling it justice, drowning in a narcissism so deep that it's practically their religion. Now, here's an oldie but a goodie, and it's completely prophetic. Here's David Horowitz, 18 years ago, predicting the events of today.
Now more on this from David Horowitz, a Fox News contributor and author of Shadow Party. David, I don't know if you heard all of what she said, but that essentially we're breeding these guys in our midst.
It's absolutely the case. There are more than 1,000 U.S. professors who, in the middle of this war, in which Israel was defending itself against a genocidal enemy, which has declared its objective to wipe Israel from the face of the map, 1,000 professors signed a statement basically supporting Hezbollah. The doctrine that these professors teach in their universities, the radicals do, has America playing the role of the great Satan. We are the oppressor nation. We're the imperialist nation. We in the West are responsible for the war on terror.
But who's stopping it, Dave? Anyone?
Who's stopping this? On the contrary, there's 150 Muslim student associations on American campuses. The Muslim Students Association was created by Hamas and is funded by Saudi Arabia. They're Wahhabi Islamicists, and they basically support our enemies. The head of the Middle Eastern Studies Association, Joel Biden, actually is suing me over a copyright issue, which is ridiculous because he objects to the fact that I called him a supporter of terrorism. But if you read what he says and the statements of the Middle Eastern Studies Association, which is our Middle Eastern professors, what they do is everything the United States does is wrong, and we create the terrorists.
The left worships death, just like the Islamists do. They slaughter babies in the womb, calling abortion reproductive freedom. They've racked up millions of tiny little graves, over 600,000 a year in the U.S. Fast forward to very recently. Here's a clip of the Islamists in Iran.
احضر ملبس الخدمة واتحزم لابو اليمة واقول يا علي الهمة مثل كل عام عني يا مثل الله الله احس لجمن جروحي نمسح صور مذبوحي واطب الكربلة بروحي ندخل الحسينية ملبس الخدمة واتحزم لابو اليمة واقول يا علي الهمة مثل كل عام عني يا مثل علي يا حسين لجمن جروحي نمسح صور مذبوحي واطب الكربلة بروحي.
Oh wait, did I say Iran? That's Michigan. That is on our home soil. The left castrates and sterilizes their own kids, branding it as gender-affirming care. They brand it as love and tolerance, while pushing confused teens into irreversible mutilation, often before they can legally buy a beer. And then we have this flooding our streets, and this is what the leftists support. Female genital mutilation and such, Sharia law on our streets in America. This is an unholy alliance between the left and radical Muslims. Puberty blockers and surgeries leave these young bodies barren. A sacrifice to the altar of woke ideology, a sacrifice to the altar of narcissism and nihilism. What unites these two factions? It's a ritual of annihilation. And it doesn't stop there. The left's weird green fetishes pushes these depopulation mantras, shaming people for having kids, while preaching climate apocalypse like it's a cult vow to empty the earth. It's crazy. We love death more than they love life. It could literally be coming from your average American woke leftist. And the narcissism screams, my identity trumps life itself. And their psychopathy shrugs at the carnage. They don't care. They project their guilt, gaslighting us with choice and equity. Storming our streets, slaughtering our babies, castrating our kids. That shouldn't be a choice. That shouldn't be a choice for you. You should not be allowed to do that. The radical Islamists, Iran, Hamas, Hezbollah, they're all cut from the same death-obsessed cloth as the left. They've had different costumes, but they want the same thing. The Islamists hide their bombs among babies and civilians in hospitals and schools, turning Gaza schools and Lebanese hospitals into rocket launch pads because dead kids make better headlines than living ones. Hamas's October 2023 attack killed 1,200 Israelis, many burned alive, while they paraded their hostages like trophies. Hezbollah's rocket barrages from civilian neighborhoods invite retaliation, and they cry, "War crime! America and Israel are targeting our civilians." No. If civilians die in these conflicts, it's their fault, not ours. It's their fault. Hamas, Hezbollah, Iran, the Houthis. Not Israel, not America. It's their fault. Iran's IRGC funds this chaos using human shields as strategy. Over 40,000 civilian deaths in Gaza since 2023, per Hamas's own numbers, often inflated, right? We don't know what's coming out of there. They want to mask their tactic of embedding fighters in crowds. Despicable, if you ask me. A country worth a damn protects its civilians. Doesn't shove them in the middle of a war. And what do you think happens to their POWs? Starved, tortured, beheaded, violated. Not like Israel's 1967 mercy, sending thousands of Egyptians and Syrian captives home after a decisive crippling of their enemies in hours. Remember, I call this the 3-hour war, not the 6-day war. 3 hours to fight, and then the next 5.5 days to clean up the mess. It's like clean up on aisle 3, guys. Iran's mullahs chant death to America, death to Israel like it's some national anthem. That is psychopathy, reveling in martyrdom as like this weird recruitment tool. What kind of person wants to go fight and never come back? No, you fight to win and then you come back home to your family. And you don't fight to kill innocent civilians and children either. You go fight the bad guy, you do your job, then you come home and you hug your kids and your wife. They gaslight the world, claiming resistance while their proxies literally slaughter. And their narcissism and psychopathy demand this global submission to this like weird apocalyptic vision. What's the common thread here between the leftists and the Islamists? They're both death cults, sacrificing life for ideology with this weird sociopathic grin, this smug grin that says, we know more than you do. We know more than everything. We know more than everyone. We don't believe in God. We are gods. The left's abortion mills and sterilization clinics mirror Iran's human shield playbook. They both weaponize the vulnerable to score points. The left's "my body, my choice" mantra, it echoes Hamas's "martyrdom is glory." It's this weird narcissistic hymn to the self over life. They both reject the sanctity of life, whether it's the left's depopulation dogma or Iran's jihadist body count. Their projection is blatant. The left calls pro-lifers oppressors while crushing the unborn. Islamists call Israel genocidal while bombing civilians in buses. Random stabbings on the street. Yeah, that proves your point. Their gaslighting paints death as liberation. Nihilism. But it's this weird lack of critical thinking, ignoring abortion stats or Iran's terror rap sheet. It keeps the delusion alive. And the hypocrisy? Well, they're silent when Hamas starves hostages. but they wail when Trump's surgical strike stops a nuke with no civilian blood whatsoever. They don't want life. They want utter obliteration. Trump is putting an end to that. Now, check out our exclusive merch at shop.nextnewsnetwork.com. We got some great stuff out there. We got some great stuff coming out. Uncle Todd is designing some really great merch for us. Check out our exclusive merch at shop.nextnewsnetwork.com. All right. All right, let's go to the chat. Boom! R. Boyd. Thanks so much. I assume that was for me. Appreciate that. Nice one on R. Boyd. Michael Jones, I agree. OBS, you got a membership. Jeremy Olson. Craig, number 4, very well said, new dude. You said it perfectly. I appreciate you. Thank you, old dude. By the way, I am Todd's brother, the trusty producer of the show. We got Brian out here making sure everything runs off without a hitch. This team is stinking awesome. I just love these guys. It looks like the chit, smells like the chit, must be the chit. Dems, Pothead Kenny, I think you are absolutely right. If it looks like a duck, it's got webbed feet like a duck, it quacks like a duck, it must be a duck. And this is how I feel about the left and the Islamists, you know? None of them care about life. So all this bloviating about, oh, we need to take care of our needs. Like, apparently your only need is just to die. To kill and to die. Makes no sense. All right, let's go to the trivia question. The answer: in 1953, the CIA orchestrated Operation Ajax to overthrow Iran's democratically elected Prime Minister Mohammad Mossadegh Abadabadoo. Which oil company's nationalization triggered this covert operation? A. All right. The answer to the question is B. Anglo-Iranian Oil Company, otherwise known as BP. Yabba Dabba Doo's nationalization of this British oil giant triggered Operation Ajax, forever changing Iran-U.S. relations. I hope you guys are having a good night. We're having a great night. Listen, like I said, I just literally lifted my jaw off the floor from the events of the last couple of days. So, this administration couldn't be going any better. Patriots, what a show. We have just witnessed history unfolding in real time, and the picture couldn't be clearer. From Gary Franchi's exclusive reporting of NATO's emergency summit to the streets of America filled with useful idiots and nihilistic dummies, we've exposed the whole rotten system. Now let's recap. Gary showed us from inside Operation Orange Shield that this isn't a simulation. It's a war at the threshold. Iran's missiles are failing. Embassies are evacuating. And Trump is walking into a NATO summit that is no longer a bureaucracy. It's about survival. And he is the top dog in this whole thing. Karoline Leavitt didn't mince words. This was an American dominance reasserted after years of Biden's weakness. We exposed Iran's pathetic threats about the Strait of Hormuz. Close it? Go ahead, man. Do it. I dare you. I double dare you. You'll strangle China while America taps our own resources, our own precious resources. This must be part of Trump's 4D chess. I mean, he had to have figured this out ahead of time. This is precision. The strike was precision. 0 civilian casualties. We proved that we can eliminate threats without becoming monsters. And unlike Iran's proxies who hide behind children, we fight clean and we win decisively. Trump's doctrine emerged crystal clear. Not endless neocon wars, not peacenik, patchouli, Birkenstock appeasement, kumbaya, my lord. No. but Reagan's peace through strength perfected for the modern age. Now, while Biden imported chaos through open borders, Trump exports justice through rubber baby bunker busters. You know, the mullahs got the message. Now we're talking about a ceasefire. We're still unsure. We're going to be bringing this to you. We're going to keep our eye on this. We're going to be bringing it to you tomorrow. But this is absolutely incredible. This is the shortest world war that we've ever seen in the history of humanity, okay? And Israel's playbook from 1967 lives on. America's playbook from the Revolutionary War lives on. Surrounded, outnumbered, outgunned. And they still won, and we still won. Today's strike with America proves the same truth. Moral clarity plus overwhelming force equals victory. The Arab world is secretly cheering because they know that Iran is the real cancer of the region. And the death cult alliance stands exposed. The leftists and the Islamists united in their hatred for life. Abortion mills meet martyrdom operations. My body, my choice meets death is sweeter than honey. If you back up and you take a global perspective of it, it's not hard to see it all. You know, they don't seem to make great allies, but when you really think about it, they make the best allies. They don't want peace. They want annihilation of everything that is decent and good. So everyone who sent in those super chats and Rumble rants tonight, you made the show electric. Thank you so much. And your real-time reactions prove that patriots are wide awake and ready to fight for truth. Thank you for standing with us in this information war. This isn't just about today's news. It's about tomorrow's survival. And while the establishment media spins these fairy tales, bloviating like shills, we are here showing you what is really happening. From Gary at NATO to the streets of America, from Iran's nuclear ambitions to the unholy alliance trying to destroy Western civilization, we are your early warning system. So tell a friend about the raw feed, text this show to someone who needs to hear it, hit our merch shop at shop.nextnewsnetwork.com and wear your patriotism proudly. That's shop.nextnewsnetwork.com. Because when the smoke clears and the dust settles, the truth will emerge, and you'll know that you stood on the right side of history. Thank you for joining the Raw Feed. Keep fighting, keep watching, keep spreading truth. We will see you all in the next show tomorrow. This is Brett Siegel broadcasting to you from a bunker down here in my safe space where I'm free from your bigotry, microaggressions, hatred, and patriarchy. Stay strong, patriots. We will see you soon.